You're tapped into Japan Journal with Mal Adams, the internet's #1 weekly English language online cybercast from Japan, streaming on GNN, the global news network, a division of Totown Communications Company, Limited, Japan.
Welcome to this special edition of Japan Journal with Mal Adams, broadcasting from Totown Digital Media on the Global News Network platform on YouTube. We thank you for your commitment to our coverage, making us the leading voice in expatriate news from Japan. Tonight, we confront a turning point in American politics, the re-election of Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. As someone who has lived nearly 50 years in Japan, seeking a haven for justice and equality, this analysis comes from a place of deep reflection on what these results mean for the America I remember and the America we face today. Let's examine the intricacies of this election, dissecting both the triumph and the tribulations, and consider what comes next. Donald Trump's re-election campaign capitalized on a robust strategy of appealing to economic nationalism and anti-establishment sentiments, which resonated deeply with a large segment of American voters. Despite controversies and accusations of misinformation, Trump's ability to connect with voters on these points proved unshaken. His rallies highlighted a direct, often combative style that promised to maintain the status quo of his perceived successes in office, persuading many that his leadership was still needed to protect American interests at home and abroad. This approach not only solidified his base, but also attracted voters who felt alienated by the political discourse under the Democrats. Kamala Harris, despite her comprehensive platform on social justice, healthcare, and economic reforms, struggled to communicate her policies' practical impacts to broader electorates. Her message, though resonant with progressives and minority communities, did not translate as effectively into the working class in rural areas where Trump had cemented his influence. Harris's campaign, lauded for its integrity and detailed policy focus, unfortunately faced hurdles in media coverage, which often favored the sensationalism of Trump's antics over substantive policy debate. This disparity underscored a significant challenge in reaching voters outside of her established base.
The white nationalists out there who are flocking to him, sort of his hardcore base, they are very open in their private chat rooms. They don't think he's actually going to get the wall built. They know that's not practical. They know it's too expensive. They don't even think he necessarily believes in it. They think it's all a game as well. But what they know is that in their case, they want that rhetoric out there because that normalizes extremism, right? It makes the envelope pushed farther and farther to the right so that when they come along and start talking about a wall, and they mean it, when they come along and start talking about mass deportation, and they mean it, people will have heard that before and they won't repel from it. They'll be like, oh yeah, I heard that from that guy, Donald Trump. That's not too crazy, right? So I think partly they don't care. Those people don't care if he's serious. Even the ones who aren't overt racist, though, right? I mean, some people gravitate to that. They'll say things like, well, I like the fact that he says what's on his mind. Well, my kids did that when they were 3, but you don't vote for him for president. That's not usually like an endorsement for public office. But for people who are aggrieved and feel that their grievances are the fault of those people, whether it's Mexicans, whether it's black folks in the cities, whether it's Muslims from wherever, Syrian refugees, whatever. That attitude is all it takes. And sometimes, we will make our political commitments on the basis of an attitude. That's why that slogan is such a genius slogan, Make America Great Again, because it harkens back to this nostalgic, fictional time. Talking about 1982 when Reagan was president, we had a huge recession. What are they talking about? 1957? You think that was good for working class and poor people? Most white folks were struggling in all of these eras that they nostalgize, but you know what? We knew we were on top. And so I think what Trump has tapped into is what W.E.B. Du Bois called the psychological wage of whiteness, right? That idea that says you may not have much, you may not have anything, but at least you're not black.
Let's talk about the dividing lines and the cultural and social impact thereof. Trump's presidency has deepened cultural divides, needless to say, and using identity politics to strengthen his hold among certain demographics. His rhetoric has often exacerbated racial, gender, and economic divisions, appealing to a base that sees his blunt discourse as a break from political correctness. In contrast, Harris's campaign, which aimed to bridge these divides and promote inclusivity, was unable to penetrate the pervasive cultural narrative established by Trump's polarizing approach. The cultural impact of this election will likely be felt for generations, marking a period of regression in the social fabric of America. Next, let's talk about reimagining America's political landscape. Well, the results of the 2024 election pose significant challenges for the future of American democracy, let's face it. The re-election of Trump suggests a sustained period of conservative dominance, but it also serves as a clarion call for progressives to reevaluate and reinvigorate their strategies. No question or doubt about that. The battle for America's soul is far from over, and the efforts of those who aspire to a more equitable and just society must be redoubled. Reflecting on this election, we must strategize for impactful change, ensuring that the values of freedom and justice prevail. Now, a renewed call for justice and equality, I think, is essential here. As we conclude tonight's analysis, let us not despair, but instead renew our commitment to the struggle for justice, equality, and democracy. Let this election not signify an end, but a new beginning, a call to action for every individual who believes in a fairer, more inclusive America. Together, we must continue to fight for the rights of all citizens and ensure that our voices are heard and counted in every election. The path ahead is long, but with perseverance and unity, we can and will reshape the future. So here's my closing call to action. Well, first of all, we'd like to thank you for joining us on this critical review of the 2024 U.S. presidential election. As expatriates, our perspective is unique, but our commitment to American values remains unshaken. Continue to engage, educate, and empower yourselves and others. Fight for the rights of the marginalized, advocate for policy changes, and prepare to make a difference in future elections. Remember, every action counts towards building a just society. Good night to you, ladies and gentlemen, and let's keep pushing forward. This is your brother Mal in Japan on this edition of Japan Journal on the Global News Network, produced by TDM Totown Digital Media. Thank you very much, and good day.
You're tapped into Japan Journal with Mal Adams, the internet's #1 weekly English language online cybercast from Japan, streaming on GNN, the Global News Network, a division of Totown Communications Company, Limited, Japan.